Adolescence, okay? Our teenage years, a very peculiar moment of our lives, I would say. And everybody's talking about the new Netflix series called Adolescence. Have you watched it? Tell me in the comments below. We're going to talk about this topic today, and we're going to take our vocabulary to the next level. I'm going to share my screen. Make sure you repeat the words after me, repeat the sentences, adapt the examples, make them true for you. Let's have a very active practice because that's how your brain is going to remember these words in the future. So when it comes to our adolescence, this is the first vocabulary we have. Repeat, adolescence or teenage years, okay? I spent my teenage years in Niterói, my city, my hometown, okay? I spent my teenage years in Niterói. What about you? Okay? Teenage years. When I was a teenager, I used to sell jewelry, okay, in school. I used to sell jewelry in school. Okay, are you familiar with this word? I used to make some jewelry and I used to sell them. It's true. Okay, when I was a teenager. What did you used to do when you were a teenager? Okay. What about peer pressure? Peer pressure é pressão entre amigos, okay? A lot of teenagers do wrong stuff because of peer pressure. I remember there was a lot of peer pressure when I was a teenager. What about you? Do you remember? Do you remember any peer pressure? What about our hormones? Be careful with this pronunciation, okay? Hormones.
Hormone, hormone.
Okay? Hormones. So it can be very challenging to deal with all those hormones. It can be very challenging. Hormones, okay? Our identity, okay? Teens often go through some identity crisis, right? Identity. They're trying to find their own identity, separated from trying. They are trying to find their own identity, separated from their parents, okay? Rebellion. Let's check this vocab here. Rebellion, okay?
Rebellion, rebellion.
Or even better, você era rebelde?
Rebel, rebel, rebel.
Okay? Were you a rebel? Were you a rebel when you were a teenager? Were you a rebel? Repeat after me. Form sentences using this word about you. Repeat out loud, okay? What about coming of age? Coming of age is an expression. Oh, expression. Give me 2 example sentences. Let's use ChatGPT. Always use ChatGPT to ask for examples of. The film is a touching coming-of-age story about a teenage girl finding her identity in a new city. Okay? Traveling alone for the first time was a real coming-of-age experience for him. Okay? If the meaning is not clear, you can ask for the translation. How would you say this in Portuguese? If the meaning is not clear, ask for the translation. Ó. É uma história de transição de vida. Difícil, né? Um rito de passagem. Olha que ideia difícil de traduzir. Traveling alone was a real coming of age experience for him. Viajar sozinho foi verdadeiro rito de passagem para ele. Okay? So ChatGPT can be very, very helpful. And I'm going to use this example here. Coming of age. All right? Puberty or puberty.
Puberty, puberty, puberty.
Okay? Puberty or puberty. can be a very hard period, okay? Social norms. There are so many social norms playing around teenagers that I can't even breathe around them. When was the last time that you had the opportunity to spend time with teenagers? So many things you cannot do, so many expressions you cannot say, so many, oh my God, they're so self-conscious. That's a nice expression for us, to be self-conscious. Nervous or uncomfortable because you're worried about what people think about you or your actions. He looked uncomfortable, like a self-conscious adolescent, okay? They're so self-conscious, okay? Mental health can be a problem at this age. Should parents talk more about mental health? Repeat these examples after me, adapt them. What do you think about this, okay? What about their self-esteem? Teenagers' self-esteem can get pretty low depending on what they go through. And school, okay? They might be suffering bullying at school, okay? To suffer bullying. And your popularity is always at stake when you are a teenager. To be at stake is to be at risk. Were your popularity ever at stake? Did you worry about popularity when you were a teenager? What about your friendships? Do you still keep friendships from that time? Okay, who are your biggest friendships nowadays? Awkward. Do you remember? Do you remember feeling awkward when you were a teenager? I am 1.70 in meters, right? Tall. So I'm not super tall, but I'm not short. And I stopped growing when I was 11 years old. So I was a very weird teenager because I was taller than the teacher. And I was 11, I was 10. So it was very weird. I was very awkward. I remember feeling super awkward. And I had all nicknames you can think of. Everybody made fun of the fact that I was huge. And I was oddly, it was weird. I agree. I understand now. So I was very insecure about my appearance back then. I was very insecure about my appearance. And there was so much drama. There was so much drama. I was a very dramatic teenager. Were you a dramatic teenager? Okay, repeating out loud. Mood swings. Teens have a lot of mood swings. It's when you move, your mood is always changing. You're happy, you're angry, right? And then your first love. This is when you usually meet your first love, isn't it? When you're a teenager. And setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is a must, but it's always very hard, also very hard for teens. Okie dokie. So remember to read these examples out loud, adapt them, make them true about you. And in class, what I do with my students is I like to take this to another level. So we talk about pictures, right? We describe these pictures together in class. So take a look at them, you know, what aspects of a teenage life do they represent? Which ones do you identify with? Which ones have you been through, you remember doing, okay? So we're going to talk a lot about this in class. And then we're going to answer some questions related to this topic, you know, and we're going to share inside breakout rooms. So what were you like as a teenager? What do you think was the hardest part of being a teen? What do you think was the hardest part of being a teen for you? That's a good question. I think for me was that I was very old when I was a teenager, and I was very hard on myself. Nowadays, I'm much more mature and I'm more understanding. I allow myself to make mistakes, but I was too hard on I was a little adult and I was too young. So that was hard. I was hard on myself. So develop on that. How would you answer this in English? What words would you need? I don't have the words. Use ChatGPT, use Google Translate, you know, put yourself into, put this in, make sure you study in a very active way, actively speaking out loud, producing, thinking, okay? producing language. This is what I want you to have in mind. So this is one of the sets that we're going to discuss in class. Let's talk about some expressions here. Oh, useful expressions. You are going through a phase. Oh, this is just a phase. I went through a phase. Eu passei por essa fase. Nossa, eu tive uma fase hippie. I went through a phase. I was very hippie and I went through this phase. I went through this hippie phase. What about you? Okay? Na minha época também tinha uns grunges. Vocês tiveram grunges na escola? Okay? So that was just a phase. To struggle with your identity, we talked about this, okay? It's very hard to be a teenager. You don't know who you are, right? You're testing boundaries and limits. You fit in with the crowd. Você quer se encaixar na galera. You want to fit in with the crowd. So you do a bunch of stupid things you shouldn't do or shouldn't say. You have an attitude. You disrespect the teacher because you want to fit in with the crowd. All right? To act out, you need to act out as if you don't care. Act out as if you are, as if you don't care. To act out is always related to faking something, okay? You feel misunderstood. Have you ever felt misunderstood? Do teenagers feel misunderstood? You push the limits, like I said earlier. You test boundaries. You deal with a lot of drama, all right? So these expressions are also very interesting when we're talking about this topic. What else can we do, right? What else can we discuss? Let's take a look at another set that I'm going to propose in class. Oh, discuss, pick the strongest and build your arguments. So here are some statements, and my students are going to debate whether they agree or disagree with these statements. They're going to choose the strongest one, and they're going to come up with at least 2 arguments to defend their point of view. So let's say social media is ruining adolescence. To ruin. Okay? That's a hard...
ruin, ruin, ruin,
Ruin. Ruin. And then in the ing, it's a tricky pronunciation. Oh,
ruining, ruining,
ruining. So imagine, social media is ruining adolescence. I think so. I think so. This is the strongest one for me. Why? Let me build my arguments out loud. Let me explain my point of view to someone else. Let me get out of the comfort zone, okay? I'm getting out of my comfort zone here. So select the strongest one for you. Build your arguments, okay? And we're going to see some phrasal verbs. So you grow up in a city, which means to become an adult. I grew up with my brother and my parents in Niterói. What about you? To fit in. I did everything I could to fit in, okay? To lash out, okay? I remember lashing out for no reason when I was a teenager. To lose your patience, to disrespect people, sabe? Dar uma estourada, to lash out. Open up. It was very hard to open up with my family, okay? And to drift apart, que é quando a gente acaba se distanciando. We simply drifted apart. Life, okay, went its own way and we drifted apart. Good. So here we have a lot of vocabulary. I hope I see you in class. Enjoy.